Welcome to Above Average Agents, where we spill all the tea on real estate and everything in between to stay above average. I'm Tiana Morales.
I'm Lucie.
I'm Meghan Romanelli.
All right, ladies, this has been a crazy year. I think we can all agree that it has been a wild ride, right? Like transaction counts have been down, inventory is up, and everyone is kind of, buyers 2008, sellers in 2021. So we've had, I'm sure, all had some crazy deals that we've had to manage and get through. And I kind of wanted to talk about what the biggest lesson you've learned this year is. Is there a new skill this year you've had to develop because of this difficult market? Katie, we'll start with you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've actually had a couple learning experiences. And to your point, it has been an odd ride this year with people backing out of transactions. But so I'd say, so one is kind of like pivoting to a little bit of empathy because we have been flat for a couple years. So people that have bought more recently at a peak with a higher interest rate, they are having a hard time if they need to get out now. So there are some people that are trying to cash out when they have no equity. In fact, if they sell it at a certain number, it's like kind of maybe have to bring a check. Like there's things that are not all sunshine and rainbows. But one specifically, one of the first deals I did this year was this super nice couple moving over here from the West Coast. They have family here. She actually grew up here. Like a lot of things are just like, yeah, you're moving to Jupiter. Everybody likes it. This is fun. It's always fun to buy a house, right? But it was because their house was their beautiful dream house they built was flooded from the hurricane on the West Coast, totally destroyed, obviously traumatizing. Who wouldn't be traumatized by that? And like, it was just like, okay. So like, even though like I'm getting them a good deal, even though this is a great house, even though it checks all their boxes, like it's still like kind of like a little depressing. And I felt like bad celebrating the wins when I'm like the reasoning behind the wins. So kind of still being supportive and expert to like get them what they need because I'm still winning, like got to still do what I need to do to like get that goal. Just understanding that it wasn't always a positive goal, even if it looks positive on paper. So just having empathy, and that goes back to really like knowing your client's motives and goals and what their objectives are because, everyone has a story.
I
Yeah.
totally agree. That is a really great skill, especially in this market. Yeah, I've had a few clients recently myself where they bought in 23 and are selling in 25, and they have to bring money to the table if they want to sell. So, and that's always a tough conversation.
Yeah, this was my first year where I've had luckily it's only been one, but I had one seller have to bring a good chunk to close. And it's hard. You're like, oh, this stinks. It's supposed to be happy and like you're hurting. Like we got it sold, yay, but also that's it's not the best
Right.
outcome. And being able to deliver that news, exactly to your point, Katie. It's like we haven't developed that muscle or that skill yet because we're coming off a 3-year high where it's win, win, win. And buyers are just used to kind of throwing in the towel and doing what they're told. Now we really have to coach and manage those expectations and explain you're better off bringing this to the table and maybe in 3 months it'll be more, and really setting that example and being compassionate while also advising and guiding because we don't really know where the market's going. I guess for me, one thing that I have struggled with so much this year and I have learned so much about and still have so much to learn, unfortunately, is condos. So I know this is kind of specific to the Florida market, unfortunately, but we have all these new rules and regulations and milestones and SIRS reports and turnover reports and meeting minutes and FAQs and all these documents you have to account for and send and understand and read and guide people through. And the trickiest transaction of my year is a boutique condo building that only had 8 units. And they were just like 8 friends living in a building, like going day by day. And one of the friends wanted to sell, and it has been a disaster. I mean, they didn't know they had insurance. They couldn't find it. Then they don't know what a milestone is. They keep sending the structural report thinking that's the milestone. And it has been the most difficult thing because we have a ready, willing, and able seller and a ready, willing, and able buyer. And we can't close the gap because the poor board doesn't understand these rules that Florida has placed on condo associations because they've never functioned like a true association. They're just like
And it's a
a group of
three-story building?
people. It's a 5-story building. Yeah, it's 2 units on each floor, and it's been really, really challenging and tricky. And I think the takeaway and the lesson there is like patient, ask for patience on the buy side, and get every information you can from the seller and just like learn. I'm trying to almost take it in with the sponge and like get excited and be like, oh, someday I'm going to be this condo master because I know what every report is. And I know that because this building's X amount of years old, they should have done this milestone at 25 years instead of 30 because they're so close to the ocean. And it should be a Broward County, report by an engineer. And I'm learning all these things. So it's really, really challenging when like you do have a ready, willing, and able buyer and seller and you're like, just close, like, please. But you have to be the knowledge broker, the above average agent in this situation, and lead everyone to a successful closing while making sure everyone's questions are answered and everything's covered, everything's current. So, like, I created a Dropbox account for this board and I was like, here's all your documents just so in the future, like, you guys have everything. You can send this link to your next buyer or seller and be more prepared. So, it's been really, really tough and challenging. But I think it's a positive, you're just learning. And I think that's what's so exciting about this career we've all chosen is like every day's different, every deal's different, everything is different. But these new rules and different things can be really challenging, but also,
Yeah, I agree. Condos are so challenging with all the documents and with lenders because of those documents and because of work that has to get done. Not all buyers can get financing for those types of condos, and you have to know what that stuff is, like what the financing piece is. I had a condo go non-qualified by Fannie Mae 2 days before closing.
yeah.
That was not fun. And that was out of everyone's control. Like, no one really could have predicted that. And eventually we got the buyer and the seller to the closing table. But this year I've had to negotiate three pre-occupancies. And it's so crazy. It's such a weird thing. But
Crazy.
I have an attorney who has a really good pre-occupancy agreement that is very clear and concise, and everyone's been on board with using those. And yeah, I mean,
And
it
what's the
ends.
benefit of that? Because closing was supposed to take place on X. So your people need a place to stay. So they still move in and then you wait for closing.
So
Wow.
one
What if it
guy,
doesn't close?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
yeah, so if it doesn't close, the buyer or the buyer has to move out within 24 hours. Yeah, it's in the contract, like what is required of each party so that it's safe. And there's a security deposit. So the two people that I've closed on, they've had security deposits in place. I have like one buyer who's doing a 2-month pre-occupancy, which is crazy. But the condo guy was in a truck moving down. It's 2 days before closing. He thinks he's going to get the clear to close. He's moving from Massachusetts. So he's driving in the truck and he's like, I literally have nothing. I have nowhere to go. So the lender was like, I am confident we will get this closed in 2 weeks. So it was a 2-week pre-occupancy. Definitely scary thing to do as a seller for sure, because you're taking on a whole bunch of risk. You never know if it's gonna close, but I mean, now that I've done this multiple times, I'm like, I've done a pretty good job at explaining it because not all agents understand it either and understand what it means and how to talk about it to their seller. Because one of my buyers, they wanted a 2-month pre-occupancy, and every agent that I spoke to was like, "I don't know what that is, and no, my sellers aren't gonna take that." And it's just like, we got shot down a million times. And then we finally found one seller that was willing to do it, so all it takes is one, so the buyers are happy. But I also think one of the biggest things that stuck out to me this year was knowing the contract, because I can't tell you how many times I've had to educate the agent on the other side, like what contract is what. Like, you can't just write in seller to provide 3% to my comment. Like, you don't just write that in. There are forms, there are addendums, you have to do it the right way, and just people, it's just mind-blowing to me. It
Yeah.
real I just cannot it's like, this is the biggest part of real estate, is knowing freaking contract. You have to know your contract and your rules, the state rules, and, like, things you can do so that you can navigate the client through the transaction. So I am a
Yeah. I
psycho
think
about the contracts.
it's so important. And I think, again, like in COVID, you kind of did what you were told. Seller asked for a number, buyer got there, agents facilitated, deals were closed. Well, now that we're in a challenging market where buyers and sellers aren't agreeing, you're kind of seeing like the reality of these agents don't, some of them don't know what they're doing, which is like really, really scary. To your point, like I get missing addendums, I get missing riders, things are filled out incorrectly, and people are just expecting stuff. And it's like, no, go back to the basics. You have to learn this, you have to know this. And it's really, really important that you know the contract, you know these riders, you know these addendums, because it can be real messy.
Yeah, and let's not talk about people who just have their license and, like, having to work with them. They're not real estate agents by day, they just have their license, and then they're like, "What form do I use?" I can't. I can't.
Are you giving me a referral?
Yeah, seriously, right? I'm like, "Are you waiving your compensation since I'm gonna be doing this for you, and you can give my client more money?" That would be great.
Yeah,
But
it's been
anyway,
really tough.
what are you gonna do?
Yeah. No, it's good. It'll show the above average agents from the rest.
Yes, exactly. So, if you guys have any other things that you have learned this year or felt like this year has gone really well or really poorly for you, let us know in the comments and we will see you on the next one.
Bye.